Welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm Johnny Angel, and this is my partner, Byron Nash.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, man, I've got a bunch I want to talk about.
All right.
What are you thinking?
I had a pretty big year with gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of how over time the responsibility of being an artist has changed, because you aren't just an artist now. You have to be like an artist and a marketing person and a promoter. But back in your day, it was like there was a specific promoter job, and now it's sort of changed. Have you, even with you gigging now, have you found like some differences with that stuff?
Yeah, again, when young musicians always ask me what's the most important thing about being a musician, and I always say to them, learn the business.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can be as great as you want, but if it's not promoted properly, if you're not in the right venue, it's going to ruin your career or stop you from growing. You know what I mean?
So back then, were artists primarily reliant on the promoter to get the word out for the show?
Yeah, mostly the promoter, the agents, anyone that wanted to pick you up, you know. So we were only on a small label. We were on Stilltown Sound Records, and but we had somebody that was responsible for taking it to the radio stations and doing all those types of things for us. And it didn't do that big of a splash for us, right?
Yeah.
But later in life it did. Like right now, because of the internet, which that's basically how you shop, right?
Yeah,
So I got a call a couple years ago from a guy over in Denmark and wanted to know if I was the same Jack that was in the Cordells back in the 60s, which I didn't think anybody outside of Pittsburgh ever heard of the Cordells.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sure enough, we just made the cover of their dance magazine, and they wanted to know more about this record. And he said, it's one of the greatest soul songs I ever heard. I said, you haven't heard a lot of good soul songs, because I can send you tons of them.
Yeah.
And anyway, and I think about that, and so now, later in my life, if I wanted to market something that I did earlier, I have to do it all myself, you know, and it's not easy, you know. A perfect example of that is like Jurgles. You know, back in the day, you know, Hank Jurgle and Ricky Jurgle, they had their club, they promoted a lot of different things, the whole bit. Now they have a beautiful venue, which is a lot of artists are playing, national artists are playing there, right? And Brian Drusky is doing all the promotion for it, you know what I mean? So you can see how that's changing, kind of wanting to go back to the way it was, but it's going to be
I don't
hard.
know if it's ever going to be exactly like that. I do find that with the internet, if you can have a good sense of what you are, who you are as a musician, as an artist, you can reach anyone. But the workload it's a little heavier now. It's like, all right, I have to learn a song, and I have to make sure that I post it, and I'm really getting the word out, because you have to cut through the noise, and there was way less noise back in the day. I think there were more gatekeepers, so it's kind of a weird thing, like the transition of all of that stuff.
You didn't get as many gigs on your own, you got more through somebody else, you know. And speaking of the music and the gigs and a whole bit, man, this week I was listening to some really cool stuff. Anything special you were listening to this week?
Yeah, I've been on a guitar kick, I mean, as usual, right? But Wes Montgomery, one of the best jazz guitarists of all time. What I like about him, and I didn't know that he didn't know how to read music. So I'm like, wow, how were you that good in jazz, of all things? But something about, I don't think he used to pick either, he used his thumb, so there was like a real clean...
They did a lot of two-note...
trying to implement some of that into my own playing. Not like I'm not a jazz player, but I love some of those kind of softer, very distinct tones that he gets from the guitar. And I play semi-hollow bodies a lot too. So this has sort of been in rotation for all the good labels, all jazz stuff on those labels. How about you, man? We've been
that's a good one. Mine leads into our guest this week, right? Roy Buchanan. We all know about Roy Buchanan.
He's a monster.
Right? He's a monster. Well, so is the guy I'm going to be bringing up. And the reason I was listening to this again is this is it takes you back. I mean, Roy Buchanan was a great artist, but at one point you thought he was leaning towards more of a rock sound, but then always went back to the blues roots, you know, and some soul and stuff like that. But I like this album, and I listened to it a lot this week because of our next guest. And our next guest we're going to be bringing on in just a minute is the one and only Billy Price.
Awesome.
Now, I've known Billy for years, and we're going to talk about that, but he is actually on this album, so we're going to talk about that. And I will be right back with you. Byron, you coming back with me?
Yeah.
We'll be right back with you.
I'll be here.
We'll be back with Billy Price.
Jack in the Box.
Hey, it's Jack again, Jack in the Box here at Ginchy Stuff. And today I'm thinking about Elvis. Elvis Presley. Did you see the movie yet? Well, here's some Elvis for you right here. This is a high collectible right here. This is the Teen Idol series. This is Elvis Presley in his rockabilly days. See his guitar? It's not the rock guitar. It's a country guitar, right? It's just cool. Ginchy Stuff here, right? Right, Elvis? Thank you very much. Oh, that was Elvis right there. Welcome back, and we are on the set right now with my buddy, my dear friend. This is Mr. Billy Price right here.
All right.
Byron Nash, Billy Price.
Yeah, good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I've been wanting to do this segment for a while because, you know, Billy and I have a lot of history. I first met him back in the early 70s when you were playing at the Grapevine, I think it was, or Oriental Lounge.
Oriental Lounge, yeah, a bunch of places.
And I was in Harambee at the time, and it was. But Billy, I've always admired your style. Always admired what your type of music and what you still carry on to today.
Yeah.
But just give us a brief overview because not many people knew where you're originally from in your college days, right? So please give us.
So I grew up in northern New Jersey, and at a very young age, I got hooked on the R&B radio.
Yes.
In northern New Jersey, there was WWRL in New York City and WNJR in Newark, and I was just focused on it. Fanatical music fan from a very, very early age, and that was the classic era of soul music and blues. And I was a member of the Otis Redding National Fan Club, and every penny I got, I spent it on 45s, and my room looked something like your museum here, John.
I love it, man.
Yeah, and then I had bands when I was a kid, but I guess the first sort of serious band I had was the Rhythm Kings. We started up in State College, went to school at Penn State. And then we ended up moving to Pittsburgh, and that's how I became a Pittsburgher.
Yes, and we love the fact you're a Pittsburgher.
Did you know from the jump that you wanted to be in the blues direction? Like, I think it's one thing to be a fan, but like music-wise.
You know, like I was in high school during the English invasion, and I got into it a little bit, but at the same time, you know, I would listen to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I'd say, that's cool, but Otis Redding, you know, but James Carr, but Ovi Wright, you know.
Gotcha.
That was always what I was into.
Yeah. I like that.
See, most of our friends from this era grew up, they were so affected by the Beatles, they went that way.
Yeah,
there were only a few of us that didn't.
And that's right.
Yeah, I was nothing but soul. I was James Brown, Temptations, Otis Redding. I mean,
once you've seen James Brown, come on.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Now, tell me also about, you know, you've recorded a lot of great stuff. And you got a new CD coming out, which I want to talk about.
Sure.
But and I mentioned that Roy Buchanan thing. You were doing the lead vocals on that.
Yeah.
Tell us about how that happened with Roy Buchanan.
Buchanan had a manager who was from Pittsburgh, and a guy named Jay Rich, and Jay used to come when he was home from Washington D.C. on the holidays. You know, he would come and he would see me and the Rhythm Kings at the Fox Cafe in Shadyside.
Yes.
So Roy had done 2 albums on Polydor Records, and he was ready to do a new one. They wanted to give him a little lift, so Jay's idea was, let's put this singer from the Rhythm Kings together with Roy. You know, and it was it wasn't a perfect match by any means. You know, it's funny. I heard an interview with our friend Eric Leeds, sax player.
Yep.
And Eric played with Prince.
Yep.
And he is known as someone who played with Prince. But one thing he said that really struck me was, if I hadn't had the opportunity to play with Prince, I may never have listened to his music. And it's kind of the same thing with me and Roy Buchanan. I mean, he, certainly a great musician.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
That just
Wasn't
wasn't where
really
you
my
were.
main thing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so I was trying to be very smart about it, and I'm going to milk this for what I can,
Right.
you know, and then this will be the takeoff point for me to get a deal with the Rhythm Kings, and then world domination is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
of course,
That follows next.
it never works out that way,
Yeah.
but that was the fantasy anyway.
Yes.
But the Buchanan stuff, yeah, the album that you held up, Livestock, it's pretty good. It's basically a blues jam.
It is.
At in front of a big audience at Avery Fisher Hall in New York. But, and that was what Roy was best at.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so to this day, it's considered one of Buchanan's best albums.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
at the time, we thought of it as a throwaway. Because the studio album was the thing we focused on.
Yeah.
Yes.
He owed Polydor one more album, and I came back and did Livestock with him. But now very few people remember that studio album. But Livestock is the one.
But switching gears, though, then you did record with somebody who you absolutely admired his sound.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about Otis Clay, right?
Right, right. So I was an Otis Clay fanatic. I did an album that was produced for me by a guy named Denny Bruce. Denny owned Tacoma Records, and he was the manager of the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm.
And Denny was a soul music fanatic like me. This was my second album with the Keystone Rhythm Band.
Yes.
And one day, we would always trade, music, and then he mailed me a copy of Otis Clay's double live album from Japan. And I was aware of Otis Clay, and I had some of his records, but man, that just changed my life. That album.
Yes.
I think I ended up covering almost every song on that album. And then my manager in Washington D.C. he said, we ought to invite Otis here to perform with you in the band. So he called him a few times and finally arranged for us to talk on the phone, and he listened to my version of Otis's "Is It Over," which was the title song of my first album with the Keystone Rhythm Band. So eventually we made the sale, and Otis came east. This was in like '83 or '84, and we really clicked. But years later, I was talking to this keyboard player in Albert Collins's band in Chicago, and he said, "Man, Otis did not want to come and sing with you guys."
Is that right?
Yeah, he said he was complaining around Chicago. I gotta go play with these guys, man. But then he said he came back to Chicago and he was like, man. So anyway, eventually in 2016, Otis had been on the legendary Rhythm and Blues cruise. And he came home and he called me and he said, a lot of people said to me we ought to do a full-length album. And so at the time I was talking with the great guitar player Duke Robillard. He was going to produce an album on me and my band. And I called Duke and I said, what do you think about a Billy Price Otis Clay album? And so what do you think he said? But yeah, that was sad to say, the last album of Otis Clay's career. That was This Time for Real on VizTone, and it got a lot of recognition.
Yes, absolutely.
A really good album. But Otis had been on a few tracks earlier, in earlier albums in my career.
Yes.
So it wasn't the first time we recorded together, but and we probably did, 15 or 20 gigs together.
Wow.
Yeah. And then right when the album came out, we did a couple of dates, one in Pittsburgh and one in Washington D.C. and we were all ready to hit the road with this thing, and then Otis sadly passed away. So.
But speaking of the things you've recorded, there's something new here, huh?
Well, that's a compilation.
I love this. Check this out. Now, this is a little bit of everything you've done, right? Your favorites, obviously.
My favorites. It's not like a Billy Price greatest hits.
Yeah.
So, there are some well-known songs of mine that are conspicuous by their absence in there.
Yes.
But I went through all my albums and I thought, okay, what are songs that no one ever talks about, that, have are ready to enter the dustbin of history, but yet are damn good, and that I want people to listen to again. So that's what I did there.
Well, I love it,
Yeah.
and of course, you know, I have my radio show on Juke and Oldies, and I've played some Billy Price things, especially El Dorado Cafe, because
well, that's one that's not on there.
I love it.
Yeah.
But we got to do another show, man.
Oh,
We
yeah,
got-
yeah.
And we'll cover some of your stuff.
But we
and-
have a 16-page booklet in there, you know,
Oh,
about
nice.
the history of my career that I
It's a
wrote.
nice package.
And yeah,
That's
nice.
and you can get these where?
Get
hip.
them on my website, billyprice.com,
Right.
and it's, you know, it's on Amazon and all the other things.
Yes,
It's
yes.
all the streaming services and so forth.
Cool.
So.
I love it, brother. Well, what do you say we play a little game?
All right, so we do this rapid fire thing. Just want to ask you a quick question, quick answer. Tell us something old.
Something old is there's a poster in your bathroom that I just visited of Jackie Wilson and the
Oh.
Platters, and you know what? I have that same poster.
Do
on
you
my
really?
wall in my apartment, yeah.
How about something new?
Something new. I'm writing songs. I want to do a new studio album. You know, since I kind of
Yes.
spent a year working this, but I do want to do a new studio
Nice.
album. And you know, to be perfectly honest about it, I'm in a bit of a writer's block right now.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
it's just nothing is really
not
coming
hitting yet.
yet.
Not
Yeah.
quick, yeah.
I'm writing with my great keyboard player Jimmy Britton. Who I
Great
think you
guy.
know. Yeah, and write a little bit with a guitar player from France I've worked with, Fred Chapelier, and I'm also writing with a guy named John Tiven, who is a look him up on Wikipedia. I can't even begin to describe
wow.
everything he's done, but
Cool.
yeah, he's got a long resume. So John and I have written together before, and we're working on some
Nice.
Something treasured.
something treasured. I would say that that Otis Clay double album.
Yes.
You know, there are two Otis Clay live in Japan albums, and the one that everybody knows is one that he did with the high rhythm section. But the one that I'm talking about was something that he did earlier than that. It's a double album, and I think if you can find it on Amazon, it's like $60 or something.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty rare, but I just really love that album.
Awesome.
And something true, Bill.
Something true. Well, I hope everything I've said today is true. Before I sat down here, I said to myself, okay, no BS.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we do a segment at the very end.
Yeah.
We just do a little jam session.
Cool.
So if you're cool with that, then
Absolutely.
we're going to take a quick break. Or
Yeah.
We'll be right back at you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Byron's Bodega. Today I'm sharing with you a super cool, almost collector's guitar. I don't plan on playing this thing out. It's just going to stay in the house, stay in the studio. It is a lovely customized paint job of Pantera's Cowboys from Hell. Their sort of debut record on Atco Records in like, what, 1990 or something like that. But I love it because Dimebag's one of my favorite guitar players. I'm sure a lot of you already know that. But this guitar, made by Dean, is the actual album cover, and I just think it's so slick and so cool. And it has like the knobs where they drill it, so you can do the grips, the little things that Dime would do, so you can do all the tricks. Got your nice whammy bar. It's a cheaper model, but I just think it's great, and I just love it, and I had to share it with you guys. Okay, so when you're giving me the cue, just let me know when you want me to go back.
Yes,
Switch.
yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, you got me run, you got me high, you got me run, high, running anywhere you wanna let it roll. Yeah. You got me doing what you want, baby, what you want me to do. That's it. I'm going up, I'm going down. I'm going up, down, down, up,
TV. Yeah. Did you record that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It was like cold, like warmed up.
That was amazing. That was amazing.